come check this out, make sure this doesn't happen again, and that's our best way to always try not to have that kind of stuff happen, especially if we're crew trading. Anything that goes wrong, you should always try to stop and bring everyone together and explain what, where, how, and the why. For now, I'm going to keep that on there. When it was just tied up on the dock with no sail on it? Or?
Yeah, massive high wind.
It should, well, as long as we follow this procedure that we're going to do once we finish setting this up and shut it down, as long as we follow the procedure that we're about to talk to, it shouldn't be an issue, hopefully. Wrap that twice. And then that's all, again, nice solid, it's all hard up against the mast, and the more you can get it hard up against the mast, there's less chance for wind to be able to slip through here and really make that a real big issue of that sail flopping around. And literally all these small things creates a big difference between a really solid looking setup and crew operation, then loose as it goes, bloody shit flapping everywhere, and then you don't ever want passengers asking, is that supposed to do that? And then if you have new crew on, they go, oh, I don't know, that's even worse. So we want that set up, and that's really nice and solid. And that should be when you come onto the waka. If I was to come on board and the crew had it lit like this, tied up like that, I'll be really happy. That'd be a really good setup. Last final thing is obviously just taking in on these sheet lines. And as we take in on these sheet lines, all cleats on the deck are all, well actually all cleats now are all 45 degrees besides the boom one. So as you pull it in, wherever it's led from, you come to a 45 degree angle cleat. You just go to the furthest side of the cleat always, and that's your half turn there, and it makes it a lot easier. When the cleats were in line, you had to kind of choose which side you kind of had to go. You never have to choose which side, it's self-explanatory. As soon as the line, wherever it comes from, if you get confused, run it straight through the center of the cleat. This is obviously closer to the point it's coming from, and that's further, go further always. And when you're training crew, half turn, halfway around the cleat is always where it should be. Never go to that point. Even if you're training in like light winds, people will go to this point because it's easier. If you practice like this, you'll always, if you train like this, you'll literally put it in practice like this. If you train like that, that's what you're going to practice. So always train like this, because again, if there's high winds and shit's banging around, I've got a lot more purchase, there's a lot more friction around the cleat to be able to help me out. Again, like this, people have been like this. Good explanation, or a good example, one time we had this quite a older lady who thought she was really onto it, and a master sailor, and she was like, oh, but we always take it off the cleat for us and it's like a lot easier to work with. And then about half an hour later she had no more fingerprints because the line just literally shredded all her hands out. So same again, always like this. And again, if I've got this line, I don't want to be like here, so when I pull some pressure on that, it can easily pop out. I always want to be on that cleat and get a bit of pressure this way, and then whoever's sweating and tailing that should be, like even on this angle, I can definitely do it by myself here. But you always want to have that kind of wrap around angle. You don't want to be kind of pulling it that way and run the risk of it popping off. It's always like that. Same again, if this is dark, you know why these bowlines are so high. If I come up in the dark time, grab the sheet line, I'm helping the bro sweat and tail, I slide my hand down, I'm straight to the knot. I know I obviously don't pull the one with the knot, it's just the ID thing. You can identify which is the running line and what is the static or the tied off end. You just can slide down. If this bowline was way down here, I'm going to have to go down every time, suss it out, figure out to split it. and then pull the one without the knot. And that's what we try to say, roughly hip height. You're just having to grab it, know where the knot is, separate them, pull the one without the knot. And that's why we tie them all quite high. And then when we do them all now, you can do a big coil. I kind of just do a half coil. Then it sits on the cleat a bit easier. Each to their own when we're doing this, but I'd probably rather everyone just, instead of doing a full arm's length coil, just like roll your arm out, don't fully stretch out, just roll your arm out, and then you're just getting a nicer, smaller coil, and then it sits straight over top of the cleat. One, say we're sailing on the ocean, big wave comes across, that coil's not going anywhere. Because there's lots of times I've had like lots of bad days when the waves are washing over, and you're always having to find a sheet line that's running in the water, like way dragging behind, because they just get washed off. And especially if it's a head sail one, you don't really notice it, you're not always up there, but over here you will notice it. Plus, if it's dark, there's a lot less chance of me kicking this cleat if I'm going to feel a coil first. So there's a few different reasons we've tried to incorporate putting the cleat or putting the coil over the cleat. Plus, the cleat is already a hazard, so I'm going to not create another one. So now we've not so much eliminated a hazard, we just minimized it into one general area. We've got the coil and the cleat all in one, and you're not having multiple trip hazards. Plus again, it's not going to get washed off because it's straight there, and that's why we've started. We only started doing that this year, but yeah, it just made sense to be able to put it all in one there. And that's pretty much the setup of this sail for now. So that's fair weather like this. If there's a lot more wind coming across our waka, we're going to do that kind of setup on the main.